the distance started actually firing shots.
That's what I'm
Of
talking
course,
about.
they knew we were running commercials, so it has to be one of those two times.
Yep, there was a bunch of guys with beards, looked like duck commander type folks on the other side of the hole, maybe 100 yards away, that just started firing away at us one day. I reckon they were mad because we had gotten the hole they wanted, but things started getting intense in the public ground, especially in the green timber. Things started getting intense there at the end, which I guess could have led to the closure. Don't you think?
Well, that's what it did. Actually, uh, we did a report for the Game and Fish years ago. I was trying to think who was governor. It was pre Huckabee. I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
But anyways, we did a report on the guide's perspective of what the problems were in public ground because there was an issue and it was going to just be a matter of time till someone got shot, and it had to be brought under regulations, um, some sort of guidance, because there's only so much space in the woods.
Right.
It's no different than the fields, except in the woods, you have more places to hide, and the ducks don't have the vision they have in the flooded rice fields. But that finally led to basically the outlawing of commercial guiding on public ground in Arkansas.
Right. Yeah. I can remember that being a sad day when that happened. I understood it at the time because we had literally been shot at. But I mean, I could remember that being sad because there was a time when, if especially if things were frozen, if the rice fields were frozen, then open water could be found in some of those places, and the ducks would just suck into those places when that happened, and we had to figure out, you had to start hunting differently. Things had to change.
You talking about those ducks and the edge of the ice. Of course, the best place to hunt ducks is where that duck wants to go in. And
Yeah,
over time,
that's right.
it just became logical that they're going to land as close to the feeding area as what they can without having to land on the ice.
Right.
And we had I was raised in those woods. My uncle was commissioner in the 50s. Uh, Sid McMath had appointed him Governor Sid McMath, and I grew up when they were charting those areas for public hunting grounds, and so it was pretty simple to know where the water lines were going to be depending on how much water was flowing into them at the time, and if you could ever find that edge of where that ice is and get in there, it was Katie bar the door once they started pouring in. And people, you think about those hunters out there. How many people have actually seen 500 or 1,000 mallard ducks circle above you and fall in a hole with you? That was the type hunts we were having back in those days. Not every day,
Yeah.
but in those extreme times, like you're talking about, that's the possibilities of what the hunt held up for you. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, and when you say 500 to 1,000 ducks, and you're talking about in one draw, in some cases, you would get 500 ducks to come into a spot that was, an acre, and
Oh yeah, less than an acre. They
yeah,
would they just
half an acre.
they'd start funneling in, and as they would push in the center, it would push the other ducks out to the edge, and they just kind of swim out. Literally, have ducks bumping up against you,
Yeah,
against the trees, if you just held off and let them come and let them come. Now, most people, they wouldn't do that, but I've always said it's about the heartbeat. It's not about the duck meat. And when those birds are coming in like that, and you get someone who's never witnessed that, why would you want to just shoot all at once first time you got a chance? Why wouldn't you get that memory that lasts a lifetime?
I like that, and I've heard you say that 100 times in the past, but it always strikes me as a great saying. It's about the heartbeat, not the duck meat. And I mean, it really is, right? I mean, you're not going out there to bring cooler after cooler after cooler of duck meat home. you're going out there for the experience. Now, obviously, eating your wild game is part of the process, but you're going out there for the experience. And the problem with East Coast duck hunters, and I'm one of them. The problem with East Coast duck hunters is we're conditioned to pass shoot. In a lot of cases, we've been conditioned to pass shoot. We're shooting ducks that are coming from one impoundment, crossing a river, and jumping into another impoundment. And as they do that, they gain elevation, they hit the river, they shoot sky high, and then they dive and drop that elevation as they get down into the impoundment on the other side of the river. And so the only way really to duck hunt, unless you're on private ground in South Carolina, is to sky bust and to pass shoot. And so you get a lot of these guys on the East Coast that would come to Arkansas and they just couldn't wait. They couldn't wait. They couldn't do it. And it was like pulling hair for me when I would guide for you, and I'm sure for your guys, and I'm sure for you, but it was like pulling hair to get guys, especially from the East Coast, to just wait. They see a couple hundred ducks come in, and they're at tree level, and somebody's going to start shooting, and then it's all done, right?
That's right. And all you've got to do normally, if you're in that situation and if you have those birds committed, if you'll let that first sucker duck or two land and test the water and nobody move, one more pass and the rest are going to start falling in, and then you get the whole experience.
Yeah, and that is an experience. If you've never seen a tornado of mallards and pintails pour into a spot less than an acre, right? I mean, even half an acre in some cases. It is amazing.
Some of those holes, what I call holes, most of what we had hunt, the Shire Bay, Rainy Break area, were natural areas where trees had died and fallen over. I mean, they might not have been 20 yards across.
Right. Just amazing.
And to have that many birds pour in there and just keep pouring and pouring, it's something you don't see a lot anymore.
It was an experience for sure. So what you just said, I wanted to get to, and I'm glad you brought it up. You said not a lot like that anymore. Now, if you follow duck hunting a lot, everybody has sort of recognized the decline of Arkansas. Arkansas was the epicenter, and I'll give you a lot of credit for that because you deserve it. Not a lot of people doing duck guiding in Arkansas prior to you, and then it became the epicenter of ducks in North America, really, especially the United States, for decades, Charles. And now it seems like it is on the decline, serious decline. What do you attribute that to?
Well, first off, let me back up a little bit. It all started over there with the Carolina Gold in y'all's area with the rice being flooded. And then it gradually moved into Arkansas along with the rice crop moving into Arkansas. And then it shifted the flyway over where y'all were, more over this way. And when you look in the 70s, that early rice allotment that the state of Arkansas was under, it had broken out up into the northeast Arkansas area, because prior to when we were getting them, they were all down south in Stuttgart, a few hours south of us, because they had more rice allotments and they had flooded green tree reservoirs to flood the rice fields. Once the rice came up here, we started stopping Stuttgart.
Right.
Why would you go any further? Now they always will be the duck capital, but that's where they got the name, was from the early Arkansas rice, and the green tree reservoirs needed to hold the water to flood the rice because they didn't have the deep well pumps back then. And I'll tell you, the trend has been changing for years and years and years. And I don't know that we have less ducks in this part of the state or in Arkansas. I don't really think we do. I think the birds are more conditioned. I mean, I used to use a story with people about conditioning ducks, that if every time you went to the refrigerator in your shop to grab a beer, it shocked you, you'd eventually start keeping your beer in a cooler instead of the refrigerator.
Right.
And that's the way a duck learns, is repetition. They're born with some insight and some instinct. But if every time they go somewhere they get shot, they're not going to stick around, because everybody becomes a superior breed from learning the defense of what to look for as they're flying in. That's why we started years ago flooding more and more rice fields that we wouldn't hunt. They would just be private rest areas, and we wouldn't shoot them. We'd let the ducks have a place to rest. We would quit hunting at 1 or 2 in the afternoon at the latest to let those birds come in and settle down. Normally we were done before lunch, but on those tough days, we would not stay out there for that last round because they couldn't get in the fields. And so if you add the pressure, you add all the reserves and the rest areas and things we have now, you have a lot more people hunting and a lot more water pumped up. I believe we have a lot of ducks in the area still, but there is a trend where some of those ducks are shifting even further west and getting into Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem, Oklahoma seems like, Oklahoma and Nebraska. I mean, you hear, different states that have been becoming popular. Even Colorado now, Colorado seems to be on the rise when it comes to ducks. And it's, you would have never thought. I mean, you think of Colorado and you think of mule deer and elk, but Colorado seems to be on the rise for ducks. And I don't quite grasp the shift either. I mean, is it? I'm not attempting to give you too much credit, but obviously you were responsible for what you just said. I mean, I knew that. I'm glad you brought the attention to the audience, but you had a lot of acreage of rest area for ducks that I'm not sure exists now. I'm not sure a lot of the guides that exist in Arkansas or existed in Arkansas would have been so thoughtful. Would have had so much forethought.
I think your major players, at least in this part of Northeast Arkansas, I think your major players have enough land they either own or they lease that they understand the value of the rest areas, and some of them still keep that going. But you have a lot of people that don't, and they'll as sad as it is, it's like any other business. People are getting business. They'll invite people in. You call them on the phone. You come in. Do they have one spot they hunt every day? I don't know. Some of them do, or they might have 2. And if that's all you hunt and you shoot that spot every day, you'll burn that spot out.
Sure.
And that goes back to the refrigerator that shocks you. I mean, you get conditioned, and it changes, and you have to adapt. It's no different than when we were filming outdoor TV, and we'd be up in Canada, and we normally hunted in the Alberta area most of the time, and came down into North Dakota around Goodrich out there, and worked our way down when we were filming. But when you would be up there, the ducks they're the same ducks.
Yeah.
But they work different. They flew different. They even worked decoys different. And you had a lot more young ducks up there. And those young ones, young and dumb, are the easy marks. And so as those birds progress down, after a few times of generations of those birds being shot, then they change where they're going. And I think that's a natural part of them protecting the species.
Yeah, they're just, evolving, for lack of a better word. They recognize that this is a problem and they move. And it's just that simple. But is it, or is it? I mean, is it, I've always sort of wondered, is the rice situation changing in Arkansas? Is the food situation changing, or is it truly just overpressure?
No, I'll tell you, if anything, there's probably more food than there used to be. when you look back at the old thresher header combines and the amount of grain that would drop on the ground, it was unbelievable how much food there used to be in some of